I'm Laura Nourallah. I'm a Ph.D. student working with Monica. I have the privilege to work with her on my dissertation. I can't emphasize enough that I am a Ph.D. student. This is a work in progress. So while I don't have any concrete results to present, I do have some theoretical inclinations, and I think I'm probably going to conclude on a note of more questions than answers. So hopefully it'll work. So I'm coming at it from I'm coming at hydraulic fracturing from a social acceptance standpoint. I initially started looking at it to see, what influences the degree of social acceptance to hydraulic fracturing. My research focuses on Canada and the US primarily. So to begin with, I thought I'd give you an idea of what I mean by social acceptance. And it involves ensuring energy policy and projects are developed with due regard for citizens' views and interests. So this includes environmental NGOs, regional interests, and Aboriginal interests and rights. I deliberated a lot about how I wanted to present this, but I think the key concepts that I'm working with here are risk perception, trust, and knowledge. That will help us understand social acceptance. And the things underpinning these three are values and beliefs and technical expertise. I specify technical expertise because in the context of uncertainty and risk, and in the case with hydraulic fracturing, there's almost close to nothing that people know about it. They do have to rely on the experts. They have to think about the empirical claims that are made about the practice, and they're in a context where they can't necessarily judge for themselves. So the technical information then leads to reliance on trusted sources. There's a lot of the literature says that based on your worldviews, you will go out and find the information that best aligns with values that you hold. So the theoretical approach that I'm working with to sort of get at all of these concepts is a public policy framework. It's called the Advocacy Coalition Framework. Why I like this framework is because it provides a good way to think about the politics around hydraulic fracturing, and it tends to demonstrate how the coalitions can be so pro and anti hydraulic fracturing. The basic theoretical components of it is that coalitions compete to dominate policy, and they are bound together by common beliefs. So these are the beliefs that they seek to translate into policy. They've developed a model of the individual that is based in cognitive and social psychology. There are 3 tiers of beliefs, but they've specified that the deep core is very much sort of in line with the cultural theory type of thinking in terms of deep cultural worldviews that influence their policy choices. So why I like it is because it gives that another layer of what happens after the deep worldviews is that you think about policy in a certain way, and individuals tend to pick based on those worldviews that they hold. The key component for me about this theoretical approach is that there's a path to policy change, and that is through policy-oriented learning, and it's based on deliberation. So there's this idea that while worldviews are inherent and you can hold them deep down, through deliberation there is room to change that, and there's room for policy to change as a result. I pick on this because I critique the framework. Although they say that there is a path for policy-oriented learning to occur, it occurs in a very policy elite and expert-focused way. It's in a rational, comprehensive approach to policymaking. So there's they put forward there's this technical debate that can happen where the coalitions come together. The coalitions are made of policy elites. Their resources are their technical experts that will bring the information to the table, and through engagement and deliberation, if enough changes happen on one level of beliefs, changes can occur to the deeper levels of beliefs so that policy can alter. But I think that there's room to expand the approach to focus on this deliberative component to include citizens and public participation more broadly. So in the case of New Brunswick, a little bit of background. We have a project going on with Positive Energy under the ISSP that's looking at public confidence in energy, public authorities around energy infrastructure. New Brunswick will be one of my case studies for my own research, so I'm going to present a little bit of the context for New Brunswick and something that we've heard through a preliminary round of interviews. And I do emphasize we haven't completed the interview, so it's very first round preliminary stuff. But what ended up happening in New Brunswick was shale gas exploration sort of just started happening. There wasn't much communication around it. From what we've heard from the interviewers, they sort of woke up one morning and there was trucks in their community that were coming to do seismic testing, and they had no idea why they were there. So when we asked, what did that make you think? Where did that lead you? They said that, we were alerted to something happening in our community. We pieced two things together, and we figured out that this was for hydraulic fracturing. When we asked, had the industry approached, most of them said no. They had just been approached in the form of signing for contracts and leasing agreements. So they were then subject to finding the information about hydraulic fracturing on their own. So they went online, they researched, they came up with different interpretations of what is put out there. And one particular interview said, the government was telling us that there isn't a problem, there's nothing, this isn't dangerous. They refused to have a say with us at the table, and here we are online finding increasing evidence about health impacts. And these are from credible sources. It's from the Colorado School of Public Health, Duke University. He particularly named a few, and this particular person was in the community for quite a while. He was a local journalist associated, and so in that context, he's forced to find his own information, and they created an anti-shale gas coalition and printed off some of these studies and started circulating a lot of the information that perceives high risk with hydraulic fracturing in the province. The other component of this story as well is that initially the government put out a scientist that was supposed to go out and consult people. And then there was a huge scandal around the scientist. He sort of put forward recommendations when he wasn't supposed to. Then he was named head of an energy institute, which then his credentials were found to be lacking as a Ph.D. He had falsified some information about his Ph.D. So this is in the context of a lot of mistrust being created in the public authorities surrounding the development. At some point, one interviewee says, the government doesn't give a damn about us. They're going to go ahead and do whatever they want anyways. So I wanted to emphasize those particular aspects of the case. And it ended up leading to, in a lot of cases, the perception that there isn't enough scientific evidence to support going ahead with the practice. So although there is a moratorium on fracking in New Brunswick right now, people seem to have the idea that maybe there's not enough for us to go on, even if we are to talk about regulation. So this is why I particularly focus on deliberation and learning. There are approaches in public policy that emphasize the notion of hybrid forums. These are public forums for debate where the policy experts, policy analysts can discuss with citizens. And the idea is to disseminate information in a manner that promotes learning. And the role of argumentation and debate is so strong in these forums because what learning is such a key aspect. To provide people with the information makes it so that they have to reflect on the information and present on it and then provide consistent views on why to defend their positions and be able to participate in a broader discussion about the implications of some of these technologies that would end up impacting their community and be faced really with the opposing perspective of, yes, environment really matters, but also do our jobs matter? And sort of they can come up with policy options as part of a forum. So there is value in structuring the democratic deliberation in ways that are effectively lessen participants' reliance on their culture. So going back to the earlier discussion, I think it was just about before break, when there was a discussion about is it about a change in perceptions? And it's not necessarily about a change. There are studies to show that if done in such a way to disable triggering certain cultural cues, then the deliberation can actually lead to shared understanding, and therefore start to create some more consensus on some of the policy options that can come out of this shared understanding created in the group. So it is about providing a forum as well. Yeah, that's me.